podcast. This is a Battle Vault, No Dice, No Glory podcast where we cover the Flames of War, Team Yankee, Great War, and Fate of a Nation game system. All right, Tom, what's going on, and what are we going to cover today?
Hello, Ed. How you doing? Today, we're going to cover the Team Yankee 2020 Season Masters, which is basically a month away on June 20th. We'll talk about the participants that are lined up for that and give you some little intel on what we know about what they're running. And then Ed and I actually had a chance to recently play a game. So we're going to recap the Death from Above. It's a historical scenario based off the 82nd Airborne landing into the 6th Fallschirmjäger area of operations during the D-Day landings. And we'll recap that battle for you a bit. Then we have an interview on our Heroes of the Hobby with Keith Gilmour from Screaming Eagles up in Minneapolis. And then we'll close out talking about the Red Devils and some intel on the new U.S. World War III Team Yankee book. So those are in our game store, and we had a chance to review that. So that's what we're going to cover today. How's that sound, Ed?
That sounds great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the new American Team Yankee book. So I want you to tell me a little about it, because I just did a quick glance at the store and I told them to put it on order for me, but you had time to actually look through it. So tell me all the cool stuff you saw. I
spent a good time going through it. So let's move into our section on talking about the Team Yankee Masters that's coming up. So Ed, who's slated to attend this thing?
Well, I'm looking at the battle rankings here, and you want me to go over the top how many?
We're just going to talk about the 16 that are going to be playing in Indianapolis in June 20th for the Team Yankee Masters.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the rankings. I'm not sure if they're all going to be there.
Okay, well, just roll down from 1 to 16.
Okay, let's see. I recognize a lot of these names. You probably know these guys even better than I do. So let's start. Number 1, we got Chris Jackson. We know him well.
Yep, and he undoubtedly will be playing U.S. Cavalry, although I know he has East Germans as well that he could play, or some other Soviet stuff, but he typically plays as U.S., and I expect him to continue with that.
John Mayer.
Yep, we know him too. He's from Ohio. He's going to be running the event at Daycon, and he plays West Germans. And it's surprising for me to see a West German so far up in the rankings here. It seems like a hard force to do well with.
That's what I play, and I'm lucky to get a win out of a 3-game tournament. But I play the Aufklärung, the reserve force with the Leo 1s, with the support of some Leo 2s. So anyway, it's a fun force. It's what I have, so that's what I play.
All right. How about number 3?
Number 3, Chris Fretz.
Yeah, our buddy Chris Fretz from Able Company, and he definitely will be playing U.S. And I know his formation or force generally hinges on 2 formations. He generally takes M60s and Lavs combined.
Yeah, Marines. Mm-hmm. Chuck Heiner.
Yeah, that's number 4. Mm-hmm. And Chuck he's the top-rated French player for Team Yankee. And he's got, but there's a format that they're going to be using where they play at different point levels, and I think one of the point levels is as low as 52. And so, on a recent painting session we did online, he had mentioned that he thought that playing French at those low levels might be a little difficult to do. So he may not be doing that. He may be doing some other stuff he'll be playing. And by the way, while we're at it, if you check into battle rankings. They have been doing interviews. Joe Lewis has continued his Tuesday evening Facebook recording sessions. And the last couple, he's had some of the top players who will be attending the Masters come in and talk about their forces. I know he's had Keith Gilmour and Kevin Morris, and we'll come up to those guys here shortly. And I believe he's had Chris Fretz on there too. So you can always go to battlerankings.com and check out the recorded sessions they have there. So let's pick it up with after Chuck there.
All right, Kevin Morris.
Yeah, we know Kevin. He's from out in California, and he's, as far as I know, planning to still come out to attend. And I believe he's been running some Iraqi or Iranian forces. I'm not really sure. I had a chance to talk to him a few times since, but online. But I just can't recall what the specifics of what he was going to run are going to be.
Yeah, he's only played in 4 tournaments and has 279 points. That's pretty good.
Well, he's a good player. He's really good in Flames of War as well. All right.
All right, Howard West.
Yeah, we know Howard. Howard's out from Pennsylvania, from the club out there. Mm-hmm. And he plays, I think, mostly East Germans. He's rated here as a top Soviet player, but at Sensicon, he was playing East Germans, as I recall.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll see what he pulls up for that one.
Then you got Igor Torgerson.
Yeah, also another Californian. He's Kevin Morris's buddy. They travel to a lot of events together, and I couldn't tell you what Igor's playing at all. But I've never seen him play Team Yankee before. But glad to see him up there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking at this next guy, Lance Matthew. 3 tournaments, 240 points.
Yeah, so he's got at least 80 in all of them.
Yeah.
And, and he's rated right now as the top. I guess that's Canadian. Is that symbol there we're looking at,
I
or is
think
that
it's
Australian?
small on my screen, but I think it's Canadian.
Okay. Well, I guess he'll be running that. I don't know anything more about him.
Yeah, Jacob Meyer.
Yep, and we don't know.
Also 3 tournaments, pretty good scores. Yeah, 230.
Yeah, I know the name. I know I've come across him in a couple of events. I just can't remember anything specific, and certainly not in relation to Team Yankee. I'm sure I played him more in Flames of War. And after that, you got Jim Naughton, right?
Jim Naughton, yeah. East German.
Rated as a top East German, so we assume he'd be playing that.
Yeah.
And then
John Cederberg.
Yeah, we know him very well.
Yeah, we do.
He's another one of the Screaming Eagles, and I think the Screaming Eagles have 3 or 4 people on this list, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
at least 3. And he has been playing a lot of East Germans. I'm surprised he's not the top East German player, but I guess he's only got 3 qualifying tournaments, so he does extremely well with them.
Oh, we got Rich Bear next at number 12.
Yep, another one of our Pennsylvania buddies, and he plays U.S. stuff, and he plays just kind of like regular U.S. When I played him in Sensicon, he had M1s and M109s and the mech infantry, a very solid, very basic
standard American force.
Yeah, it's remarkably how I don't want to say vanilla, but how normal of a force it is. That just pretty much like you might actually expect to see on the battlefield instead of the normal min-max and all these kind of trying to push advantages. It's just a solid, basic U.S. force, and I'm sure I think that's his only Team Yankee force he has.
Did he have his M109s though? That's my question.
I guess he does.
Well, there you go.
He does.
Of course, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
All right. Where do we leave off here? Chris Sorensen.
Yeah, Christian, we know him. I'm not sure what he's going to be playing out there. But again, just 3 qualifying tournaments. And one thing to keep in mind here is that there were a lot of Team Yankee events scheduled through March and April, which would have qualified. So you might have seen a lot of different entries here had things been different. So things are basically kind of cut off in early March for Team Yankee. I think Sensicon being one of the last ones reported in.
Right.
So we see some pretty low numbers of tournament attendances for these that might have had a very different mix if we'd had another 2 months of input.
Yeah, I'm looking at Chris Jackson and John Merritt, 8 tournaments. I mean, wow.
It's a lot of traveling.
Squeeze those in early.
Yeah, a lot of traveling for Team Yankee.
All right, let's see. Keith Gilmour, we know him.
Yep, another Screaming Eagle from Indianapolis, and we are going to interview him later in this podcast. And he is playing British, and he will continue to play British at this event. And he's a top-rated British player, British force player in Team Yankee right now for the U.S. So great guy, and looking forward to hearing his podcast interview later on in this session.
Yeah. All right. Tom Gall, recognize that name too.
Yep, another Screaming Eagle from Minneapolis, and I'm not sure what he plays in Team Yankee. I've played him a couple times in Flames of War, but I've never played him in a Team Yankee event, so good to see him in there. And I think he's the 3rd. Cederberg, Gilmour, and Gall are all guys from Screaming Eagles up in Minneapolis, so they have 3 of the 16 slots, so congratulations to them.
All right, still going down the list, 16, Ryan Waldick.
Yep, I don't know anything about this guy. I couldn't even tell you where he's from. So just total mystery to me. So probably means
Joe
he's from
Lewis, 17, recognize him?
Yeah, well, 16 is where we cut it off there. That's the 16 is the.
That's right.
Those are the folks going to the Team Yankee Masters, at least the ones that have the invites. Now, Joe Lewis is running the event, since you mentioned his name already. He's going to be the TO, and he's also going to be on standby to be a ringer, again, with the COVID-19 situation. And it remains to be seen how many of these folks are still going to actually report in. They are going to run this at Family Time Games in Indianapolis, and it's a big store, so they got lots of room to spread out, and they'll be able to put some degree of distancing so that you're basically one person per table, I guess, or two people per table, obviously. Don't know if they're going to require a mask to be worn or not. That's still a month away from now. So today is May 24th, and this tournament will be played on June 20th and 21st. So, but they're definitely moving forward with it, and they'll just put in whatever extra precautions they need to based off what the rulings are at this time. But again, that's a month in the future, where hopefully the situation will be much nicer for them. So there you go. So that's your
interesting note on Joe. He's only been to 2 tournaments and he has 166 points. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. So if anybody should be in the Masters, he's probably one of them that should be. All right. Sure. All right. Very good, Team Yankee. So while we're on the subject of Team Yankee, Tom, can you tell me a little bit about the new Team Yankee American book that you took a look at?
Yeah, well, we're going to hold that till after we do the Keith Gilmour interview. Okay. I think right now we'll go ahead and move into our game description from the Ed and I had a chance to we went ahead since the conditions have changed, and we can game at our local store now. It's great that Hard Knocks Games is open. They only have 6 tables, and they're kind of spread apart. They could fill in way more tables than that, but for allowing for social distancing, the tables are pretty far apart. And rather than us going in and taking up a valuable game space that may be the only game space that other people can use, Ed and I both can play games at our homes. So we set this up at Ed's place. So Ed, why don't you run down for the folks what we gamed?
Oh, okay. We played. I've been working on my American Airborne, so I called Tom and said, "Hey, come on over. Let's try to squeeze in a game." And we were able to do this last weekend. And I don't normally play Americans, but I've got a large American force that I'd never play, so this was the chance. And I played the American Airborne scenario, and we played Death from Below.
Yeah, and this was not
Death from Above, but we played Death from Below.
Well, if you go, one thing that a lot of people forget is that they look at Flames of War only as a points level competitive kind of system, but it's perfectly fine for playing historical scenarios as well. You don't have to use point systems at all if you already know the forces that are involved in the scenario, write up the scenario and execute it. And so this one happened to be a balanced scenario. I think we played at 58 points.
62.
Oh yeah, 62-point game.
62 points. Yeah.
But in both cases, the lists were set for us. So if you go to the Battlefront website and you look at the historical scenarios, this is one of the ones that was in there. Was a brand one that was posted in conjunction with D-Day. It was basically, I think we had you had the U.S. Paras. Mm-hmm. And why don't you run down what your force included? And again, this is a force that you did not design. This is just what was listed in the scenario for you to run with. Right. So what'd you have?
I had 3 platoons of infantry.
Yep, parachute rifle.
And the headquarters platoon. And I had a platoon of mortars. And that was it.
Yeah, and your headquarters, right. Headquarters.
Oh, yeah, and headquarters, yeah.
Yep, so pretty small force. And I was playing Fallschirmjägers. So now we have basically fearless vets versus fearless vets, essentially. And my forces were also 3 platoons, a headquarters section, 3 platoons of the Panzerfaust in each platoon, and they were full platoons, the 10 rifle machine gun teams and with a floating Panzerfaust in there. Also had a heavy machine gun platoon of 4 tubes or 4 guns, and then I had a mortar platoon of 3 tubes, so that rounded up. So I had 1 more platoon, but also 62 points. And one thing to keep in mind is that the U.S. platoons were generally bigger. They had the light machine guns added in and the single 60 millimeter mortars as well. So Ed actually had potentially up to 4 templates he could use.
That's right, and I used them quite well, and they worked out pretty good.
Yeah,
they slowed you down and allowed me to live. What happened? What was this scenario was all about? Is the Americans were the attackers. They dropped into the drop zone, but then they had to defend themselves in the drop zone and defend
from the German.
So they keep you from overrunning me is what it was, just like a normal airborne operation is.
Yeah. So the scenario used the seize and hold mission, which is in the D-Day British book. And so it's played on a 4x6, and we played it in a pretty well bocage table. We got we'll probably do we took a lot of photos, so we'll do an after action review and post it on the forums here. So because we had a pretty nice bocage table and managed to get some good photos. Yeah. So, and it had some special rules with the U.S. half the U.S. force or 60% of the U.S. force basically drops onto the board. And there's some random placement that involves that. Ed picks a spot, and then he rolls for direction and distance, and then places the command team at that location, and then places the rest of the teams in command. So he kind of basically was able to pick a spot within each quarter. Oh, he had to roll for which quarter, right? Although
right.
I think you rolled 5 and 6. So it's basically his deployment area was split up into 4 quarters, and he would have to roll 1 through 4 to see which quarter they went into, or on a 5 or 6, he got to pick. And honestly, you had pretty good rolls.
I had good rolls. I was able to keep my guys together, and they weren't spread apart.
Yep, everything. And got right up on that forward objective. You didn't really have to move really at all to get up there and secure it. So that worked out pretty well for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the German forces, their reserves come on the Germans are basically going up from the short edge of the board towards the so it's basically kind of played from short edge to short edge for the Germans anyways. But then the American reinforcements could come in from any of 6 locations. Right. Any one of the 4 corners or along the long edges. Yeah. So I had to be prepared for a paratrooper platoon showing up, because you had in reserves 1 paratrooper platoon and your mortars.
In my mortar platoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I really like this scenario, because you never know where the other airborne platoon is, just like the situation they had in D-Day. The American platoons all over the place, airborne platoons. They didn't know where they were all. Yeah. And that took that into account. And so I could have come in right behind the Germans where they were coming in with their reinforcements, but that didn't happen. But I came close.
You rolled 1 table edge.
I rolled a 5, which brought me over if the Germans were coming in from the north side, I came in from the east side. So
that was a infantry platoon came in from my left side, and then your mortar platoon came in from my right side. But both well further into the battle, nothing had come in from behind me, and I had to elect to put 2 Fallschirmjäger platoons on the board to start with. And I had to leave my headquarters and machine guns off, and the 3rd Fallschirmjäger platoon to meet the reserve requirements. And I really hated to not have the headquarters on there, because I had von der Heid with that headquarters. But I had to, because I had to get those mortars on the board so they could start bombarding right off the bat.
Yeah, now you had a special character too.
Yeah, it was von der Heid. I just mentioned him in the headquarters.
I blotted out there.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, but in the headquarters, I had von der Heid. It was didn't really do me much good. He allows a 2+ motivation for morale checks for when the unit commander's within 6 inches of him, but I never got a chance to use that. He basically it was only like a 2-point command card, so it wasn't really very powerful, but it never really came into play for me, unfortunately. So so it also started off as a night mission. So it was dark to begin with.
It was dark for a long time.
Yep. I had the first move.
And that played in to help you quite a bit.
Yep. I had the first move. Was able to kind of close the distance. I wasn't able to. I did assault on the first turn. You had managed to get some guys just a little bit more forward of the deployment area. I think. Yeah, no, actually, you went first.
I got lucky and had a good roll, enough to stop your assault.
Well, before we get to that,
guys in the process.
Before we even get to that, you had the first move, so you had a chance to slightly assault, and you put a few guys into a town. If you can envision, basically the main battle line happened along this one bocage, and just in front of the bocage, there's a small village with 4 buildings. Right. And you put a couple of teams out forward, and that rifle teams out forward in that village. And I was able to assault them on my first turn and get into the village. But that was about one of the only successful assaults I was going to have for that game.
And those were only 2 guys that I was able to get in the building. They died when you assaulted them, but that slowed you down a little bit, I think. And
no, actually, it sped me up. because
That's right.
when you put out sacrificial lambs like that, it can stop dash moves and those kind of things. But basically, if it allows me to assault and I have a good chance of winning, so not only do I get the extra movement from the 4-inch assault, but then I also get the extra 4-inch consolidation move after that. So you got to be careful letting people assault early. So I was able to take that town and clear that out. Mm-hmm. But then I still had to get over the bocage. And so in my second turn, I had, of course, your second turn, you dug in. I don't believe you shot. I think you just dug in and went to ground along the bocage line. And then I tried to assault with 2 platoons, one after the other. And things just started going wrong in that turn for me with the failure of my mortars to range in. So I didn't get a pin. I should have used them to put down smoke. That would have been much more useful.
Yeah, that was the lesson learned there.
Yeah, you had no problem stopping both those assaults. And then the next turn, you started moving your troops back in the rear area a little bit, trying to move to the other objective. I had reinforcements coming in fairly early. Yours were delayed. Mine were immediate. I still don't think I got anything until I had 2 dice to roll. So I was starting to bring in another infantry platoon and then eventually the machine guns in the headquarters. So I was able to bring those 3 units in eventually. And I kept trying to assault multiple times against that hedgerow. And I managed to get 1 assault in that actually closed. You just had a poor roll, but still I could never push you off that hedgerow. I could only get a couple teams up close. And eventually we got up to turn 5, and this is one of those missions where I have to be within 8 inches of the objective to win. Right. So I had to do another assault and was able to push into the hedgerow area with your paratroopers. And miraculously, I was able to hold on. And
the game would have been over if I just gotten you to gotten 5 hits, and I did not. I only got 2. So you were able to push in there and delay the game, and it as a result, it took another 2 or 3 turns before.
Before you could just push me out of that hedgerow area, and but eventually you did. So
my reserves came in at the right spot.
Well, actually, that was the one of the reserves that did it. It was your second unit that you put on during deployment, the one that kind of was back to your
the one
area.
that was taking the back objective, holding it. Yeah, I brought them forward.
Yeah, that unit that came in from the flank, it ate up one of my platoons and basically finished it off. But that's not the one that was giving me the 8-inch, keeping me in the game. Yeah. So eventually, you're able to destroy that one platoon, and through assaults, right? I think multiple assaults it took. So it was kind of bloody back and forth. I kind of knew the game was lost on my turn 2. When I could not get those 2 big assaults with fresh full platoons to close. Mm-hmm. That was killer. I had to get some bigger wins when it was dark and before you had a chance to get settled in and get your mortars on the board, because once you got your mortars in and once the daylight was up and all your tubes are set, and then you started hammering my rear area. My machine guns and my mortars started getting beat up. So it was pretty bloody. I think I ended up losing 2 full platoons and most of another Fallschirmjäger platoon, and got the mortars down to a single tube at one point. And so I got pretty well beat up and still got pushed off. So good win for Ed. And it was fun to play a historical mission, one where we didn't get to pick our forces, and one where we got to kind of do some historical circumstances for that.
Yeah, I really like scenarios. And this just happened to be a balanced scenario. Most of them aren't, but
and
you could see it was going to be bloody. Fearless vets, saved the level. Here we go. It's going to be who's luckier than the other person, and I just happened to get lucky early, which was enough to save me.
Well, you had some pretty good strategy too. You had a good, solid position. You kept pressure. You didn't do nothing was really wasted. You didn't keep anything. You pretty much applied all the force you could apply in the right parts and the right time. So, and things worked out. Good deal. Our preference is to play historical games. We love campaigns and we love historical scenarios. We're both longtime avid war gamers, so we're very comfortable. It's nice to have the 100 points pickup battle when you're meeting new people, and it's nice to go to tournaments and play a lot of different people, a lot of different things. But truth be told, we're much more into the historical gaming than the competitive gaming.
Yeah.
And this was a great opportunity for it. So All right. Well, anything you want to cover from that game?
Yeah, I loved it. I want to play again, man.
Yeah, we
I've been
will.
working real hard on my American, so
Bagration's been pushed back a little bit because of the COVID-19. So instead of this summer, we're probably not going to see Bagration until the fall. But we will do a large online campaign for that. But in the interim, we still get a chance to do some D-Day gaming.
yep.
Yeah, we'll keep going forward with that, and we'll get some more battles for U.S. paras and do some. I'd like to do one of the scenarios. It was in the squad leader game where the French, the Germans have the French R-35 tanks or Hotchkiss tanks. You know, the 100th Panzer Training Battalion, I think it was called. And it'd be kind of cool to have these little clunky, weird French tanks trying to push up against some U.S. paratroopers. That'd be kind of fun. So
That'd
again,
be good. Yeah.
so we got some more of that coming. A good deal. So all right, well, next we'll go into our interview with Keith Gilmour from the Screaming Eagles, one of the Masters players we talked about, and so we'll be back here in a minute. We'll talk about what's coming up in the future.
Being bored is lame. Hard Knocks Games is awesome. You can get board games, trading card games, role-playing games, hobby supplies and tools, Gundam, Warhammer, and more. Find us on Facebook or hardknocksgames.com or visit us on the Dixie Highway.
All right there, Ed. Well, we're very fortunate tonight. We just covered the Team Yankee Masters for the 2020 season list, and we're very fortunate tonight for our Heroes of the Hobby segment to be joined by one of the people who's on that list. Keith Gilmour. Hey, Keith, how you doing?
Hey, Tom, pretty good.
Good. So, Ed, why don't you start off with the questions here for Keith?
Okay, Keith. I've been playing Flames of War for a while now, and just wondering how long you've been playing Flames of War in Team Yankee.
So I started playing Flames of War around about 2009, so it's about 11 years ago now. I was playing before that, like a lot of Flames players. I started out with the Games Workshop games, and there was a pretty big group playing that in the Twin Cities, but it came to a point where I wasn't having a lot of fun with that anymore. And I was talking to one of the other gamers about it, and he had collected a large number of Flames of War models, but never really played the game. And so we started sitting down and just playing some games and trying it out. And really, I haven't looked back since. I've got a whole cupboard full of Games Workshop stuff that's been gathering dust for the last 10 years. So once the bug bit me, it bit pretty hard.
Keith, did you have a natural inclination towards World War II, or was that just because that just happened to be the coincidence your friend had the World War II Flames of War stuff?
No, I've always been a big fan of World War II history. It's always really, interested me, and I had some family that was involved in there, and so it was something I always enjoyed.
That's cool. What did your family do during World War II?
So my great uncle was a sergeant major in the engineering corps, and so he was in all the way from the British Expeditionary Force, and he was part of the Dunkirk evacuation, and then on to North Africa after that. So
wow.
He was in it.
Yeah, for those out there in the field that don't know Keith personally, you may have noticed he has a slight bit of an accent, and you're from Ireland, right, Keith?
Yeah, from Northern Ireland.
Yeah. What brought you to the U.S.?
So my job. So the company I work for, they have a factory over there in Northern Ireland, and the opportunity came to move over here. So I took it, and that was 2004, so 16 years ago, and I recently became a citizen just a couple of years ago. So I've got some new roots down here now.
Oh, well, excellent. Well, we're very, very fortunate to have you over here on this side of the pond, and glad that you've been able to become such a part of our gaming community. So we know you play Flames of War, and we also know you play Team Yankee because you qualify for Team Yankee's Masters this year. Do you play any other periods of the Battlefront line of games?
No, not right now. But there's a pretty big Fate of a Nation following here in the city, so I'm sure I'll be dragged in there at some point.
Yeah, I think you pretty much have everything up there with Chris Grau and Tom Gall. I think you've got all the periods covered amongst your player base.
Yep, definitely.
Because I know Chris is big into Vietnam, and I'm pretty sure Tom Gall's into World War One, so it should cover it pretty well. So good.
So, of your forces that you play in Flames War, what nation or what nationality do you prefer?
So when I first started playing, I was really interested in, like a lot of people, the German heavy tanks, the Panthers, the Tigers, all those iconic vehicles that I was really looking forward to play.
Mhm.
But somebody at the club said to me, they said, "Hey, you're from Ireland. What would you know about World War II?" And so I decided at that point that I was going to show them what Ireland knew about World War II. So I immediately started playing British,
Yeah.
and particularly the Irish Guards. And so all throughout, that was the end of V2 and into version 3. For mid-war and late war, I played exclusively Brits. The Rifle Company especially, I really enjoyed playing that. And then added on the Sherman Company whenever, the Hell's Highway and the Market Garden books came out. And then when early war came out, I decided to try my hand at some Germans. And so I picked up the Light Panzer Company. And so, the box set that had a whole bunch of Panzer 1s and 2s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started playing with Germans with those, and that was a whole bunch of fun. Then when version 4 started, I wanted to start again with German tanks. And so I started an Eastern Front themed Panzer 3 company. And so that's been my mid-war go-to since version 4 came out. And then I moved that into when D-Day came out. I got some more Germans, some Tigers, some Panzer IVs, and some half-tracked Panzer Grenadiers. Is really the force that I play most right now.
Yep, I had the pleasure of playing your mid-war Germans at Adepticon 2 years ago, and then last year I got to play your British, and then and for those out there who don't know, Keith is going to have the distinct pleasure of being the reigning Adepticon champ for at least 2 years, being that it was canceled this year. So he'll just carry over until hopefully 2021 when we get a chance to go there again.
Yep, I can defend it again.
Yeah, and so in Team Yankee, I know you play Brits. Is that all you play in Team Yankee?
Yeah, so I started when Team Yankee first came out. I started with Russians, and I played those until the Brits came out, and then I've played the Brits pretty much exclusively since then. I've recently started working on an Israeli force. But that's nowhere close to being ready yet. So,
what are you going to do with those 4 Israelis?
I'm starting with an infantry company, and working from there.
Yeah, I was almost getting ready to pull the trigger on the daily deals from Battlefront when they had those Merkava box sets for 40% off, and I just hesitated. I said I don't need to start another whole new army, but that's one of the ones I'm kind of inclined to almost want to jump on, is doing Israeli modern tank force.
Yeah, I have 10 Merkavas as well, so I'm sure they'll be added in at some point.
Now tomorrow night you're going to be joining Joe Lewis, and for those out there who don't know, Joe has been doing during this COVID-19 lockdown. He's been doing weekly, shall I say, Facebook simulcast, where he's been pulling in subjects on missions and ambushing and list construction and terrain placement. And so you're joining Joe tomorrow night there, Keith, to help him out with, I think, a modern British review.
Yeah, he asked me to come on and talk a little bit about the British forces in Team Yankee, and their strengths and weaknesses, and how they play, things like that. So he's going to do a series of sessions, work through all the nationalities leading up to the Masters tournament.
Great. Okay, so yeah, it's just focused for the Masters tournament then. And when is that scheduled?
June 20th.
Let's I guess that's still well over a month away now. So
yeah, we'll get to have it.
Yeah. We just heard today that Historicon was canceled. Today being May 11th. So little disappointed to hear about that. I was holding out a little bit of hope that we might squeak through with Historicon, but not to be. So the next possible major convention, I guess, would be Gen Con in late July, early August, I think is when it's at.
Yeah.
And then maybe Dragon Con in August, so in Atlanta. So yeah, kind of disappointing how how things have impacted the gaming community. And you had scheduled up there in Minneapolis. Did you have a Team Yankee event on Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah, yes, we do. But that's going to be canceled at this point, probably. We had another event already scheduled in April that was canceled, and it's some things are bigger than gaming, unfortunately.
Yep, understandable. It's so are you getting any painting done during this period?
Not as much as I should. It's hard because I'm working from home, sitting at a desk in the basement for 8 hours, and then to sit down at a desk again to start painting has been a struggle.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, you've been on a lot of those painting sessions. I know your gaming group up there holds weekly paint nights online. I guess you do that on Facebook.
Yeah, so it was something fun I thought of trying just to keep the community together. It's gaming at its core is really a very social thing. And so, to be, away from our group of friends for so long was going to be tough. So, we just try to find ways to keep that interaction going through this whole distancing thing.
Yeah, excellent. And that's one reason why we brought you on, Keith. As you know, my good friend Chris Grouse, one of your gaming buddies up there, I've known him for decades and decades. And I asked them, because you guys have a strong gaming community. You've got about 3 or 4 folks that are consistently traveling to come down to events, through the central U.S. and even further. And but you're always, I'm always seeing what you guys are doing because I'm on your Facebook group, and you always got a lot of events going and pretty strong turnout. I mean, even for you all, like a 12-player turnout's a small event. So what do you do? Because this is really why we wanted to have you on tonight, was to ask you what is it that you do that helps keep your gaming community going strong? And I guess you've already given us one example with the Facebook painting sessions.
Yeah, and to keep any community strong, it's really, you've got to get a core of kind of enthusiastic and kind of dedicated individuals who really want the group to succeed. It could be 1 or 2 people. The more you can get in that core, that kind of nucleus of people, the better. And then that group of people just helps keep everything moving along. Another thing that really helps, I think, is having a regular schedule. So we have a regular game night here, and I don't get to as many of them as I'd like to, but at one of the local stores, there's every Friday night, the group gets together, and sometimes we could have 5-6 tables going on a Friday night, just with people practicing, and then I think the other thing that really fuels it is the regular events. So when I set out to try and build the group, I had a target of having one tournament every month for our group, and for the last year we hit that, and this year we were on track to do that. So before all this kind of fell apart around us, but having those regular tournaments gives people the push they need to keep painting things, adding new units, learning how to play things better, and that's a regular place where they can go and they can really measure their success. Last time I finished 10th out of 12. Next time I'm going to try to finish 8th, or I lost to tank armies last time. I'm going to change my list this time so that I'm not going to lose against tank armies, and I'm going to do better against those. So I think having regular events really helps with that. And then the other side of it is whoever your top players are, they need to really help teach. Need to be teachers of the game as well. If you've got the same people winning all the tournaments all the time, and they're not helping everybody else in the community learn and get better, then that doesn't really help you either. So luckily we have a good core of players that are really good at the game and are really good at helping and teaching others. Even in a tournament, I've seen people tell each other, that's not really a very good idea. You might not want to do that, and explaining why. So that kind of mentality really, really helps.
I find it really interesting that you're able to do one tournament a month. That's quite a bit, and I wish we could do something like that. But it takes a major effort. It seems like just to get one every quarter, or much less every half year. Um, but let me ask you. So when you do your tournaments, do you have a different theme each time, or is it over a period of time you're just trying to work like a particular period, or like in this case D-Day? Did you do D-Day for 3 months before you were planning on switching off to a different thing? How are you doing that, or were you changing the themes each time?
Yeah, so usually I try to cycle through the time periods.
Okay.
Back when we had all of the time periods for World War II, we would do an early war, a mid war, a late war, and then a Team Yankee. So every quarter would do not every quarter. Every 4 months you would come back to the same time period. So you
Hmm.
could do early, mid, late Team Yankee. Recently, with early war kind of falling down, we've been doing mid war, late war, Team Yankee, and cycling through those.
Well,
But then if there's some type of event coming up, like with Adepticon, we ran 2 tournaments in a row before that as mid war to help people get ready and build their armies for that.
that's great. That's really good. I wish we could do that here too.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I think really helps, sometimes we try to build in different themes. You might have an escalation tournament where you
Mhm.
start off with a lower point total and add some more points for each round to try and make it better, to try and build up your lists. The last tournament we did, we called it the Masters Bounty Tournament. So anybody that ended up playing a Masters player got an extra victory point.
That's a good
Um,
idea.
so just to make people excited to see those players with the green shirt across the table. So
Yeah, like a handicap in golf.
yeah, and then the other thing we started doing maybe 3 or 4 tournaments ago is all of our prizes now we do a random draw.
Oh,
So for the longest time we had a prize full of tables, and whoever finished first got their first choice, second position got their second choice, and so on. But it got to a point where it was within the same kind of group of people that were walking away with the biggest prizes
yeah.
for the most part, and so we decided to switch it up. Now we just grab a D20 from the counter at the store, and we start rolling it, and whoever falls in that position, they get their first choice of prizes. So
Oh, that's great.
I
That's great.
like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I might win something decent.
Well, you can occasionally win stuff.
Oh yeah, I had a streak for a while, but it was a short while.
Yeah, he was the top rated player for this season, and back in the fall for about a week.
Yeah.
He
And,
won advance the colors.
and so because of that, God cursed the world and and threw the plague on us. He will never win again.
Glorious proceedings. That's good. Hey, so Keith, does that concept, do you think it helps in terms of just more relaxed gameplay? Does it help bring new players in, that knowing that, hey, even if I'm last, I get as much of a chance to walk away with something pretty special, and I don't have to be so worried about where I end up in the standings?
Yeah, I think it gets people a little more excited about it.
It's a great concept. I definitely like it as a especially for your yeah, for building the community. You talked about trying to be a coach and a mentor, and not crushing people in practice games and helping them all to become better players, but also kind of gives you a little enthusiasm to kind of overlook a mistake or a bad decision that you just which we all do. And you're not all down in the dumps, because you still know that, hey, I still have something to look forward to possibly at the end of this event. So I guess we don't have a whole lot on the horizon in terms of events, except for we do expect your the Team Yankee Masters to go off, because what is it, like 16 players? I think they're going to have in that.
Yep.
So hopefully within a month, we'll have. I mean, we certainly won't see any large conventions, but hopefully the circumstances will support holding a 16-player event. And I know they're doing it in Indianapolis. For those that don't know, it's a pretty good sized store, so they spread out the tables. I think they can kind of put together a reasonably contained environment for you all. So certainly hope that happens. But what are I guess you're playing your Brits, you said, for the
Yep.
Masters. Good. And any sort of thoughts, or you want to just because what you're going to put out tomorrow? I know you're going to share some stuff with Joe and the Facebook group there, but this will be broadcasted long after that. So why don't you recap here the advice you're going to give them tomorrow?
Yeah, sure. So the British, their strengths really in terms of Team Yankee is their high skill. So they're a veteran skill, and they're hit on fours. So they're your old confident veteran. Their morale is a 4 as well. So they're very skilled. Their infantry really are kind of the backbone of the list. As Tom knows, they can pack more than a handful of Milan missiles.
Oh yeah,
and those things really are, they're good at taking out just about everything. It's at least until we get to the newer the tier 1 battle tanks for NATO that are coming out. That's going to be a different problem we're going to have to solve. But for now, at least, I think the British infantry platoon with their Milans are really solid. They also have the Carl Gustav, which is basically a 16-inch range heat weapon, which really keeps tanks. They want to try to get close to get inside the minimum range for the Milans. But then if they get too close, then they've got to deal with the Carl Gustav. So they've got really good kind of long-range anti-tank firepower and really good short-range anti-tank firepower. So they're solid that way. And they have enough machine gun shots to keep infantry on it. So
have you found with the change in the version 2 Team Yankee World War III rules that have brought the artillery from basically the repeat bombardments rule forward? Has that drastically changed your thought process with the British?
So what it's changed really is my target priority, right? So before, artillery was something that you might shoot at whenever you get round to it. It was never really a priority, but now something like the Russian Acacias, if you get a unit of 6 of those, re-rolling hits with the 2-up firepower and you're re-rolling saves, that'll make an infantry platoon melt away really fast. So those become target number 1. And that's where the other strengths of the British list are their recon. So the Scorpion tanks or the Scimitar tanks and the Harrier attack planes. Those are the other 2 things that I never leave home without. And those now, their target priority is taking out those artillery pieces that are going to threaten my infantry, because the infantry are really the things that are going to win me the game.
Yep, they're going to keep you in position. Yeah, that's why with my Soviets, I always take a ton of anti-air. I've been wrecked by Harriers way too many times, so I probably overload on anti-aircraft just to make sure I don't get one of those big bomb cluster templates on my my formation.
Yeah, sometimes it almost feels like I'm cheating if I bring the big template, but it's hard to leave home without it.
Yeah, well, people can take anti-air. I do. So what are you looking forward to coming up in Team Yankee and Flames of War over the next 6 months? You've seen what they've talked about with the Twitch TV with Pete and Chris?
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to the new armies and the new problems that we're going to have to solve for those, right? So once everybody starts getting their tier 1 MBTs, your T-80s for the Russians, your M1, A1 HCs, the Leopard 2 A5s, once they start coming out, it's going to be a whole different game. And it's going to be through a lot of really different challenges in terms of list building, because you're going to have to be able to defeat both a T-55 or T-72M swarm, and you're going to have to be able to deal with a small number of very well protected heavy tanks. And trying to find a way to solve that is going to be a lot of fun. There'll be a lot of different iterations of list building and testing and trying to find the answer, but that kind of thing I find to be a lot of fun. And then similarly for World War II, you're going to have the same kind of thing with the Russians getting the IS-2s coming up with Bagration, and then the Germans are going to get King Tigers in there as well. So, I really enjoy the new lists and the constant change that there is in the game, because it's a new set of problems, or a new set of issues that we've got to go to try and solve with our list building and our play.
Yeah, Ed's not too excited at all about IS-2s for World War II.
Yeah, I've even got it set up on my table already. Come on, give me a tournament to go to.
How many do you have now, Ed?
I got 21.
You should be good.
Is that not a full regiment of IS-2s?
Yes, it is.
four companies of 5 tanks each, and the headquarters tank.
That's right. That's
nice.
right.
A complete Guards heavy tank regiment.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, I just got to figure out what kind of support troops are part of the formation. So, but I got them ready.
We're gonna have to do like Team Yankee. You know how they're playing 120 points in Team Yankee to allow for bigger tanks.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to play like some 120 or 150 World War II just so we can have a IS-2 regiment in total on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I concur.
Yeah. Well, that's good stuff. So, Ed, you got any other parting questions here for Keith?
Yeah, I was wondering, Keith, if somebody was wanting to start up a community, they're like they had the interest like we do in World War II, and they're moving to an area that doesn't have anything yet. How would they go about, or what would you recommend they do to draw up interest there?
So I'll say the first thing to do would be to try and run some type of demo games. If there's a game store out there, bring some models along and make sure. I don't think there's anything that sells Flames of War as well as having a nice table of good World War II terrain and some painted tanks fighting across it. It really draws people in. And we always find when we have a tournament running, we get 3 or 4 people who've never seen the game before, asking questions and, joining our Facebook group to learn more. And that then turns into new players that add into our tournaments in the future. So I think just getting it out there and showing it to people in a way that really captures their imagination is a good way to start. And then as far as tournaments go, there's kind of an element of, the Field of Dreams in there. If you build it, they will come.
There you go.
You can't wait to get a community there to start running your first events. You've got to try and set something up and then see who comes to join it.
And you guys also do non-tournament events. I mean, don't you do historical scenario days and some big battle days? You do some non-competitive group events as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. On top of the tournament every month, maybe every 3 months, we run a mega battle where we theme it on, some random thing. It might be the last one we did was a bocage battle. So the Germans defending the bocage and a bunch of Americans and coming at us. In the past we've done North Africa, Tunisia battles. Chris is really the master of those. I talk to him and say, pick a period, Chris, and then he runs off and does his homework and picks a map. Picks a battle that happened, finds a map of the area, and then we lay out the terrain on the tables. We've had maybe 6 tables all pushed together lengthwise or in an L shape or an S shape, or lots of different ways to put that together to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, Chris certainly loves his military history. It's one of the things that we've had in common since I think we met in September 1989. So it's been a long road. So, well, good deal.
And that's Chris Grau.
Yeah, Chris Grau. Yep, the AKA Panzer Grau. Anybody call him that up there?
No.
That is his official name. He earned that in the Armor Officer Basic course. So I think I'm probably one of the few people who remembers that for him. Well, Keith, this has been fantastic and informative. We certainly appreciate you taking some time to talk to the field and share some of your insights with Ed and I and the rest of the gang out there. And we wish you luck at the Team Yankee Masters. First off, we wish you luck in them holding it as scheduled. And I'm sure that they'll do it at some point if it has to get pushed back. But we do wish you luck when that occurs, and we'll be eagerly waiting to find out how you did overall, and maybe we'll get a chance to bring it back on, and you can kind of give us a recap from it. That'd be kind of cool, huh, Ed?
Yeah, I go for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it. So
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy
Being
to.
that I'm not good enough to be there.
me either, brother Ed. Me either.
My West Germans are just not making it. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So they can become A5s here. So, well, okay. Well, we appreciate it, and you stay safe, Keith, and keep us informed what's going up on there in Minneapolis.
Will do. Thanks, guys.
All right, take care, buddy. All right, that was a great interview with Keith there. Great guy. Hope he does well at the next tournament. So let's get going on some of this other information that I want to hear from you.
Well, I want to hear from you first, and because we'll go in sequence. You've been looking at the Red Devils book, and I had a chance to get some intel from the store copy of the World War III Team Yankee book. So let's start off with your book, the Red Devils book.
Yeah, really like that. You know, we know a lot about the American paratroopers and all that kind of stuff. We see a lot of this on the history show. But you know, the British were there too, and they had some airborne troops operation. Matter of fact, they came to a rescue of one of our U.S. units one time, taking a bridge, a very key bridge. And if it wasn't for the British airborne there, we wouldn't have been able to do it.
Well, yeah.
Anyway,
are you talking late war or mid-war?
No, I'm talking Sicily.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking Sicily.
Which would be
it
mid-war?
It was a key bridge. I'm trying to remember the name of the bridge, but
Premisol Bridge, or is that from Crete?
I don't remember the name of the bridge. You know my memory. But anyway, I know that it happened in Sicily.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, there you go. And so it was good to see the book here. I've got some British paratroopers that I've painted up, and I'm working on another platoon. But yeah, here it is. It's 42-43 mid-war booklet here, and it takes into account the standard British paratroop unit. You got headquarters, 2 platoons, possible third. You got your machine guns or mortars, and then you got your 6-pounder anti-tank guns. And again, being mid-war, your 6-pounders are going to be only AT-9. So, but there you go. It's a standard thing, pretty good. And they also covered the commandos, which I thought were pretty cool. And let me scan down here real quick.
So they're just 9 points for a parachute rifle platoon in mid-war.
I didn't hear you there, Tom.
I said they're just 9 points for a parachute rifle platoon in mid-war.
Yeah. It's only 9 points, and the thing is, you can also get the options of adding a Bose rifle for 1 point or a Piat for 2 points. So that's it. Yeah, so but in your standard platoon though, you're going to have 6 Bren SMLE rifle teams, and you got your 1 Bren SMLE rifle guy too, in a 2-inch mortar. So there you go. So it's only 7 guys there. 7 guys, 9 points. It's good. They're fearless trained, and they have an assault of 3+. So that's pretty good. But they're fearless trained, not fearless vets.
Yeah, but they're still hit on 4+, so that's the most important thing. And they're still deadly, so 3+ in the assault. So They're not. The only thing is on digging in and movement orders, they're a little bit rusty.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of curious here how they compare to the standard rifle platoon. For the standard British rifle platoon from mid-war.
That's your area. I don't have a British mid-war.
Okay, so here's a standard British rifle platoon is 11. The full one is 11 points, and it has the 7 Bren gun and / rifle teams, 7 rifle machine gun teams, and 1 boys ATR and 1 2-inch mortar. That's 11 points. So here, this unit is fearless, and for 9 points, the only thing it's missing is the ATR.
Right, but you can add that for 1 point, so bringing it to 10, or you can make it an 11-point unit also by adding the Piat. And it being the same price as your mid-war platoon there, you're getting a fearless unit.
Yeah, it's not the same price. It's in fact cheaper. That's what I'm trying to get
Well,
at
when you
here.
add the Piat to it, it makes it 11 points.
Okay, but you're comparing apples to oranges here.
Mhm.
I'm comparing it to a British rifle platoon with a Bren gun, the boys anti-tank rifle. So if you add the boys anti-tank rifle, which will give it the exact same composition as the rifle platoon, you're only paying 10 points versus an 11-point platoon. And essentially, everything is the same except for these guys are fearless. So it's basically you spend a point less and you get fearless. That's what I'm trying to get
Yeah,
for
right,
you.
right. Okay, I got you.
Seems kind of a bargain. That being said, they have a little bit less in terms of sport options, but that's pretty enticing. You might even want to consider to maybe use the parachute rifle platoon cards when you want to run a guards unit, guards infantry or something, or something in some more elite British infantry forces in the mid-war period.
Yes,
so pretty cool. All right, man. Well, what else?
Well, then I mentioned the commandos, and the commandos are pretty cool. You can get several sections of commandos. It's not they're not platoons, so there's sections. So you got the command troop headquarters, and you can have up to 4 commando sections, and then a 3-inch mortar support and Vickers machine gun. Okay, no anti-tank capability there, but let's take a look at at a normal section. Which would be a platoon. It's for 10 points. You get the 7 Bren rifle teams there. But you can also get the anti-tank rifle for another 1 point, and then the Piat for another 2 points. So for 12 points, you could have the Piat. But for 11 again, you got the 7 and 1, 7 and 1 that we just mentioned for the mid-war thing. Now the thing is with the commando section, though, they're fearless vets. And the assault at a 2+. Amazing for the same amount, commando section. This is the way to go, man.
Yeah, so now you're paying a little bit more than your standard rifle platoon, but now they're fearless with a 2+ assault and a 3+ skill. Pretty awesome. Pretty much maxed out on
the anti-tank, unless you add it as a support unit.
Yeah, so there's a lot of incentives here to play these guys over the regular rifle infantry platoons. Save the difference in the force organization. They're just very different in what they have available for force options. Very much less. They don't have universal carriers, for example. They have less weapons platoons, I guess would be the term we'd use.
Right. So, the mortars, they have the mortars and the Vickers. That's it.
Yep.
And getting 3 mortars there, 3-inch mortars. That's 6 points there, and then for the 3 Vickers, that's 5 points. So that's normal. But the thing is, they're fearless vets.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing.
So what's different? This book is the same kind of format as the 21st Panzer book. It's going to be a booklet and unit cards and command cards all packaged togetare.
Yeah.
And unlike the 21st Panzer, there's a lot of incentive to want to play this. These are some great options. The 21st Panzer, I thought, was a little bit kind of muted. It really just did, I guess because the models were only going to be available from Battlefront, they didn't want to make them too good. But the main reason to play 21st Panzer is because it's 21st Panzer, right?
Right. It's for those that are historical people. We love that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter how good they play or whatever.
Right.
Or they're not going to be the devastating unit. If they're lucky, they'll fight the right force and win it. But they are cool looking. They're unique. And they're fun to play because of that uniqueness. Yeah. And that's why I got the full meal deal with the 21st.
Of course, but this is one that you'd want to play from a competitive standpoint. So if you were going to have a rifle platoon supporting, a rifle formation and or just had a single rifle, these are black box single units that you can throw in, so you could have some better infantry to support your tank formations or vice versa. So pretty cool. I dig it, man.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. Yeah, and this if I play British, this is what I'm playing.
Yeah, and what I mostly like, Battlefront are continuing to fill the holes. A lot of people talk about, hey, well, this unit's not available yet. That thing doesn't exist yet. Mm-hmm. Well, here you go. Now you can play your paras in mid-war and late war, and your commandos in mid-war and late war now. So expect to see more of these booklet card pack approaches in the future.
Yeah.
So
I like that. That's great.
Anything else about the paras you want to talk about?
Oh, I just want to play them.
All right. Well, we will do so.
We will have to do it. And you got the pack hours. There's all that normal airborne stuff. Always fun to play.
Very good. Very good. So I had a chance, as Ed mentioned earlier in the podcast, to go spend some time at our local game store, favorite local game store, Hard Knocks Games in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. And we got to start off by talking about Battlefront in an attempt to help kind of kickstart the store presence. Has sent a packet to each of the U.S. stores that carry Flames of War that included some box sets that they can sell. They just gave them away, by the way. They gave them the stuff for free. So it's some of the new late war British stuff like Crusader AA tanks and some other box sets that are applicable to the late war British. And they also included, remarkably, because it won't be out for quite a while now, hard copies of the World War III Team Yankee U.S. book. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I actually bought that 2-tank AA cruiser tanks.
Oh, is that where it
they'll
went?
Be done today, actually.
I was looking for them. I was there on Friday, and I was like,
I got them.
Where's that box set? Cool. You have to do a little article on building those. That's very cool. So I didn't get to buy those tanks, but I did have a chance to sit down and page through the Team Yankee book and take some notes. So let me share with you because a lot of people, you got to admire Battlefront for trying to give incentive for people to go to the stores. That's fantastic. But there's still a lot of people that are not comfortable about going to the stores. Right. This is kind of to help intent to fill them in. Of course, by the time this gets posted, this information will have been out for a little bit, and people have had a chance to go to the store or not go to the store and see it. So I don't think this will detract any from that initial intent with giving that early presence of that book in the game store. So we'll just expand it and reinforce that effort by making it available to people who cannot get to a game store or who are not quite comfortable yet going into a game store.
Right.
So fantastic book, 109 pages. And it covers everything that was covered in the original Stripes book. It has the armored combat team, which is a tank team, both in various flavors of M1s and M60s. It has the M2 Bradley mechanized team, M113 mechanized team, 82nd Airborne Infantry Combat Team, 9th Infantry Combined Arms Company, Bradley Armored Cav Troop, M113 Armored Cav Troop, Light Division Cav Squadron, then a bunch of U.S. support, and then it has a 2nd Marine Division also in the book with the Marine Tank Company, Marine Rifle Company, Marine Lab Company, and then Marine Support. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Army formations and 3 Marine formations that you can build out of this book. So greatly expands the existing Stripes. So what questions do you have about it, Ed?
Man, my Americans, any big differences that you noticed between the original and this one?
Well, the big thing is that there's a lot of changes, a lot of updates, some very historical, some not historical. So I think the most prevalent thing or maybe significant thing is the expansion to the M1A1 and M1A1 Heavy Common.
Yeah.
So we finally get the US 120 main gun on the US tank, and they are pricey, as you might. So let's go with the M1A1. For 4 of them, it's 56 points. For 3 of them, it's 42 points, and for 2 of them, it's 28 points. So they're basically 14 points a pop.
Wow.
And, yeah, and that's for front armor 19, side armor 10, with the Cobham rules, and then the top armor 2. They do have a 2+ remount, and the gun, the 120, same long range as the normal guns, but with AT-23 with a 2+.
Oh wow!
Yeah, pretty awesome.
That's good.
And then you can also choose to upgrade to the M1A1 Heavy Common, and that runs 72 points for 4, 54 points for 3, and 36 points for 2. So they're 18 points a pop. Yeah. And for that, your front armor goes up to 21, and your side armor goes up to 11, and everything else remaining the same.
Yeah, you're going to have to play 120-point games or more to bring those to bear.
Right. Yeah. That's going to be very. I mean, even a single platoon of 4 of these is 72 points. So even if you take a mech platoon of 113 infantry or a low cost, man, that's 72 points. 72% of your force going into reserve in a 100-point game. Because these guys will have to go in reserve, no choice. So pretty amazing. One thing that I noticed in the modeling guide they gave, in order to distinguish, as they said, the M1 would be the M1 without the bustle rack. The M1 IP would have the bustle rack on the back. The M1A1 would have the bustle rack and the 120 gun. And the M1A1 Heavy Common, they would denote by having the bustle rack, the 120 gun, and an auxiliary power unit, which is a kind of looks like it's a square box that hangs off the right rear fender on the back of the tank.
Yeah.
And this thing was designed so that you could run the APU that's, gas operated, and it would power the tank. So you would not have to run the turbines when you're sitting in a defensive position, or we're just trying to, keep the tank operational without wearing down the main turbine and main transmission.
Yeah, we used to joke about you guys because we'd always have to chase you guys on the battlefield. I was in the M109s, but I was in a FIST vehicle and just trying to keep up with the M1s there. But, the amount of fuel you guys burned off, even just sitting still, we used to joke and say you always had a fuel tanker behind you.
Yeah, well, that's because the turbine burns the same amount of gas no matter what speed it's running at. It's always going at a constant revolution. So whether the tank is sitting or not sitting, it's still burning the same amount of gas. And it's just a question of how much gets transferred to the transmission so basically the turbine just has a continuous rate of rotation. It doesn't go slower or faster. It's either on or off, and it runs at the same revolutions and therefore uses the same amount of gas all the time. So the auxiliary part is a great thing. But one thing I got to say to our readers, or listeners, I should say out there, the auxiliary power unit was available to all versions of the M1. So my first platoon was M1 IPs and with the 105s. And we had APUs. This is 1989. So the APU could be added to any version. I wouldn't add it to the straight M1. But as far as M1 IP, M1A1, and M1A1 Heavy Common, it equally could be on there in all three. I think Battlefront's just using this as a quick visual cue to tell you it's a different tank. What I recall from the M1A1 up armored from Desert Storm was that it was laminar armor that was applied in the port of Daharan after the tanks got there before they were reissued to the 1st Cav and the 24th Infantry Division and so on. And they basically glued these additional panels onto the front of the slope of the turret glacis there. There were multiple layers that were kind of stair-step like most. So what I would do for an M1A1 Heavy Common, I would probably just take out some really thin plastic card and cut little panels to add on to the front glacis of the the front slope of on the turret, the front edge of it.
Right.
But later versions that was the M1A1 that they just kind of upgraded with a temporary field fix. But then later on, they started doing the M1A1 Heavy Commons with the armor package built in, and then you couldn't see the stair-step extra panels. They were actually built in the armor to begin with. Anyway, it's just an interesting little side point for there. Mm-hmm. So next up, I think, would be the Bradleys, something that people had been screaming for Team Yankee since day one.
Yeah, finally.
Bradley platoon. It comes in a full platoon with 4 SAW M72 teams and 3 Dragons, and with 4 Bradleys, and that comes at 15 points. The Bradley, as you know, has a tow missile, and it also has a Bushmaster chain gun, which is AT8 with a firepower 5+, and I think it's rate of fire 3 on the move or stationary. So pretty awesome. And you can also upgrade the Bradleys to the M2A2, which has a different side panels, kind of like almost like a Scherzen kind of a thing on the side of the Bradley.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about there, Ed? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that only costs a 1-point upgrade for the whole platoon, and that takes your armor from 321 to 541. So I think I'd probably want to pick up on that.
No, absolutely worth it, yeah.
Yeah, and it looks really cool. So happy to see that in there. What I'm surprised about is that they didn't give the Bradley hammerhead, because that tow mast, when it gets put into the the launching position, that tow launcher kind of flips up. It's basically above the turret level, and the sights are right there above the turret. So it seems to me like this thing could have probably had the hammerhead rule for the tow missile added to it. But, yeah. But people, for whatever it's worth, it's not there. But pretty good option for the force. Now I'm only going to cover the stuff that's new and different from the main original Stripes book. We don't have time to go through everything. Okay. So that's the Bradley. Next up is the Rapid Deployment Force Light Assault Gun Platoon, and this is the G.I. Joe tank.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. And one thing that really shocked me about this is that it has hammerhead. Apparently, there's some sketches of this thing. The plan was that gun tube would actually lift above the turret. It kind of like pushed up on stilts, if you will, to shoot.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I didn't know that. I'm just used to seeing the GI Joe tank or
No,
other tanks.
no. Yeah, this thing elevated itself. Mhm.
Yeah, so yeah, that caught me off guard. So it does have the hammerhead rule,
Yeah.
and it's cheap, man. It's for 4 of them, it's only 9 points. 3 of them 6 points. 2 of them 4 points. So
What's the AT on that thing?
well, they rated it at 18-19. Rate of
Okay.
fire 2 on the move, 1 stationary.
Mm-hmm.
Armor is only a 4.21, and then it has a firepower 3+, laser rangefinder. Pretty good, and I mean, not much armor wise, but you think about it, your armor is not being hit. So this thing with a hammerhead, it can stay concealed and on the ground while shooting.
That's right.
Yeah, and with a rate of fire of 2 and 18-19, this kind of helps really put a dent in the cheap tank hordes. The T-55s and the
Mm-hmm.
EMP swarms and the lab swarms and all that kind of stuff. So because the cost is low.
What's a hit on?
4+, like all U.S. stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so it goes up to 6+ when concealed and gone to ground. So
Right.
and 7+ for long range, concealed and gone to ground without laser rangefinders. So it could be kind of hard to take out. And at only 2 points a pop, I mean this is a serious contender.
Yeah.
I think you'll probably see these added quite a bit in formations going forward. They also have in that 9th Infantry Force breakdown, the Light Mortar Infantry Company. This thing has 6 SAW M72 teams, 1 M60 GPMG, i.e. the pig, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
M60 team, 3 Dragons, and they ride around on a total of 10 Humvees, and that unit only costs 10 points. The Humvees are only armed with the 7.62 machine gun, which I would say they probably should have been armed with 50 cals or Mark 19 combinations, but that's a separate issue.
Well, Mark 19s came later. Yeah.
No, they're in here. They're just not available for this platoon. So they're out there in other units we're going to get to here in a minute.
Right. Time of the 9th Infantry that you're talking about, the time or earlier time when it came out, and so you got the early Humvees and the normal.
Well, the headquarters section has just 2 Humvees, no infantry dismounts, and it has it's only 2 points, and they're armed with 50 cals. And then you can get a light attack platoon, which it's a mix. It has 2 Humvees with 50 cals, 1 Humvee with minigun, and 1 Humvee with a Mark 19. And that whole unit only costs 2 points. So, like I said, the Mark 19 and 50 cals, and even the minigun are there, but they're not available in the line platoons. They're in the support, the weapons platoons, if you will.
Right.
And then they also have the a Humvee fire support, which I don't know why they call it Humvee fire support. It's called Humvee anti-tank. So it has 4 tow Humvees or 2 tow Humvees for 4 points for the 4 and 2 points for the 2. So only 1 point per vehicle with a tow. So 1 point tow launchers basically.
That's a good bargain right there.
Yeah, pretty sure. And another significant upgrade from Stripes. You now have the option to upgrade to the TOW 2, which, if I'm not mistaken, the TOW 2 had tandem warheads. So it had 1 warhead that would blow away the reactive armor or the
That's correct.
Screen, and then the second warhead would travel on in to finish the job. Basically, to upgrade to the TOW 2, you only have to pay 1 point per unit, and that takes your TOW anti-tank from 21 up to 23, which is pretty awesome.
That's a big change for 1 point. Oh yeah.
So this 9th Infantry Force, I can see good chunks of this, and plus it's so cheap that it's nice to take this and then add in your heavy M1 supporting them as a formation support or something. So pretty awesome options here. You can also get a Humvee Scout platoon, which I'm sure will have the recce rule. I didn't write it down, but I bet it does. And it has 2 M2s. 2 Humvees with the Maudus, 1 Humvee with a Mark 19, and 1 Humvee with a tow, in which you can also upgrade to the TOW 2 for 1 point. But why would you upgrade it here for 1 point when you could upgrade it on the fire support platoon and get 4 of them upgraded for 1 point?
Right.
So there we go. So as we continue on, there's also a light div Cav squadron, which is pretty much what already existed in the Stripes book. But now it has the option to take that TOW 2 upgrade for 1 point per unit. Support options, they add in the Apache. So people are going to be excited about this.
Yay.
Yeah. It's a brute. It's 6 points a helicopter, so you get 2 for 12 or 4 for 24. The Hellfire missile is rated at AT-25 with a 64-inch range. Yeah. Well, you're going to need it for the heavier Soviet tanks. It also has the chain gun with a rate of fire 6 stationary, 3 on the move, AT-8, firepower 5+ with anti-helicopter. So it's going to be pretty good at taking out other birds. And it has the rocket pod salvo. I don't think you'll have time to shoot that, but it has it. You can also get the Cobra unit that you could in the past, and now with the TOW 2 upgrade. So if you take, for instance, you used to be able to get 2 Cobras for 7 points. You still can, but for 9 points, you can have them with the TOW 2. So the upgrades on these for the TOW 2 is slightly more. So you used to get 4 Cobras for 14 points, and now with the TOW 2, it bumps it up to 18. So there's a little bit more of a premium increase on there. The Marines are pretty much the same as they were in Stripes, the same lay-down unit. The only difference is that they also get the TOW 2 upgrade. So things that would have like the LAVs with the TOW launcher on it, that launcher now can take TOW 2s as well. Again, generally a 1-point upgrade. So definitely worth it. The only new piece of kit that they had for the Marines was the LAV air defense, which has they're 2 points a pop, so you get 2 of them for 4 points or 4 of them for 8 points. It has a gun, a 25 millimeter gun with a rate of fire of 7 on the move, 4 stationary, AT-8, firepower 5+, and anti-helicopter, anti-air, all that good stuff. With an added 24-inch range, if I didn't mention it, or it can take a shot with a Stinger missile, which has the normal Stinger missile shots stats. So pretty awesome. I think I have a lot of U.S. stuff that's in the box that I've had since Team Yankee came out. I just haven't gotten around to doing it because we needed people to play Soviets, so I only built and have only played my Soviets thus far. But definitely now have a lot of motivation to get busy on my U.S. stuff and to expand the stuff I already have. And the last thing I'll say about the new book is that just like the British new book, it had a section on Desert Storm, which I love to see because I love seeing the 1st Cavalry Division in it. Yeah.
Yay. I wonder why.
I wonder why. So it shows it has one of those nice, fold out full page, two-page maps of the whole campaign, talking about the units. Has a pretty good breakdown of where the U.S. formations are there. It has a little history section on the M1A1 Heavy Common, kind of a write up. So all in all, very impressive book. A lot of options, even with the ahistorical 9th Infantry. There was some stuff going on with that, as you know, right? The 9th ID out there was at Fort Ord, California. Is where those guys were at.
Yep.
Yeah, and they were.
Hang on. The 9th. Yeah. The 9th was at. Hold it. Where was the 7th? The 7th was at Fort Ord. 9th was at Fort Lewis.
Yeah, I thought it was the other way around, but whatever the case may be, or maybe they were both split. They had a brigade here, a brigade there. As the Army likes to split up brigades sometimes from divisions. There was a special experimental rapid deployment force unit that was kind of a hybrid thing. That was a kind of a deal in the late 80s. I think we pretty much were done with it rolling into, and it was definitely disbanded after Desert Storm. All of those independent brigades and special things just kind of got put by the wayside.
Yeah.
But
that rapid deployment force came as a result of the Iranian hostage incident.
Yeah. But they didn't really look like they looked like this special G.I. Joe tank really wasn't, ever fielded. The Stingray or the Buford might have been more realistic options that actually had a bit more prototypes and higher testing. Heck, we almost had the Buford for the 82nd Airborne. That almost was a replacement for the Sheridan. It was until they decided to cut funds, and then they just cut the program. And they said the 82nd doesn't need any tanks, so they had nothing after the Sheridans were not replaced.
Yeah,
but the 9th ID, as I recall, they were that motorized. They had they didn't really use Humvees. They used like dune buggy Jeep things and all sorts of weird sets of kit, motorcycles, and all sorts of different things. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, it's kind of cool to see them in there. I think at this juncture with Yorks and Sergeant Yorks flying around and driving around and all sorts of. It's really definitely very much a what if game now. So I can't fault them for wanting to add this. I'm kind of excited. I think it was a neat piece of kit which is going to help add balance, particularly this light tank, the G.I. Joe tank, because I think it's a pretty good antidote for the swarms of cheap Soviet tanks. I think it will, especially if it stays gone to ground and cover, it's going to be really tough to dig out those units. Pretty awesome. So any questions there, Ed?
No, I'm just looking forward to
All
playing
right.
it.
Well, we will. I'll get my U.S. Of course, but you don't have any Soviets, so yeah, you'll have to do U.S.
No, I just got West Germans right now. I got a few American units, but
Yeah,
that's
you and
it.
I, so far, despite the fact, I mean, we have so much Flames of War, so many countries. You even have a ton more than I have. When it comes to team,
Well, I got
when it comes to Team Yankee, I'm just all Soviet, and you're just all West German. We haven't really expanded out into Team Yankee as much as the other. Although we play a good amount of it, we just don't have a lot of different options for it. So pretty awesome. On upcoming events, we normally like to kind of close out, and we've probably gone on long enough here. We like to close out with what's coming up in the future. We already mentioned that the Team Yankee Masters is the next tournament we know of in Indianapolis on June 20th. After that, we don't know a whole lot. I will say that we had some sad news that since our last recording, that both Historicon is canceled, not rescheduled. So we're not going to be going in July up to Pennsylvania.
Yep, that was going to be my first one to go to.
Yeah, it's a shame. Great event. And then also, even a little bit more recently, we just found out that Gen Con in Indianapolis is canceled.
I know, sadness.
It was August, and that's Able Company runs like 6 or 7 events at that thing.
Yeah.
So they're out. So NashCon in August, the last weekend of August is still on in Nashville, Tennessee. They don't currently have any Team Yankee Flames of War stuff scheduled for it. And then Dragon Con in Atlanta, as far as I know, that's still on. So we'll see how things pan out here, and how things open up.
So my motivation is going to be for NashCon. I'm going to have to work on my Team Yankee stuff.
Well, we don't have anybody.
Yeah.
No one has announced they're running anything at NashCon yet.
Oh,
so
okay.
We'll see. I think over the summer, we'll probably see more smaller events, 12-player local events, maybe up to 20-player events as the states go through their various phases. Like I think right now we can have 10 people gatherings in Kentucky. So we could have a 10-player tournament at Hard Knocks games, theoretically, if we would want it to, but I'm not so sure with the current situation that we get 10 players that wanted to show up for it.
Yeah, I was talking to our game store owner there, that big area that we got in the back, but if we do a tournament there, we're taking up that whole back of the building and nobody else can do anything.
I think it's going to be kind of cautious, wait to see how things go, wait to see if how the situation and the curves flex or don't flex or whatever the case may be. So I think it's going to be more of us gaming in our homes for a while, but at least we're up to that stage, which is great. Well, cool.
Yes.
All right. Well, anything else there, Ed?
Well, that is it. That's it at the moment. I want to finish painting my stuff, my Crusaders up, and then finish some more Americans.
If you guys don't know out there, or you're out there in the field, Ed is just a prolific painter. He is painting stuff on a daily basis, all sorts of kind of units. It's amazing. He's been playing Flames of War for about half the amount of time that I've been playing it. And I'm pretty sure your collection's at least twice the size of what I have by now. And I haven't.
Yeah, I'm running out of places to put everything. I'm going to have to buy a house now.
You need one. House with a basement with a game room. Yeah, we definitely want that for you. So, we'd like to, again, for all those who made it this far in the podcast, thank you for tuning in. We greatly appreciate you spending time with us, and we hope that this podcast is useful and valuable for you. If it is, give us some feedback. If it's not, give us some feedback. Let us know how we can make it better to meet your Flames of War, Team Yankee, general gaming needs here in the U.S., and you can contact us on the No Dice, No Glory forums. You can pop a post there under the podcast section if you want, or you can send an email to podcast@battlavault.com. That's podcast@battlavault.com, and those are both one word each, podcast and one word for Battle Vault. And or just send us an email. A lot of you out there know us and can get a hold of us directly. So just let us know what we're doing good, what we're doing poorly, and what you think might help us provide a better service to you in the community. This is it's May now, but by the time this gets posted, it may be, it'll probably still be late May.
That's good. I'm ready to go.
Happy Memorial Day to everybody. Hope everybody takes a chance to pause and think about those who gave their lives defending democracy and peace in the world, and spend some. Maybe Ed and I will get a game on Memorial Day. We'll see. That's just it's tomorrow. So other than that, everybody take care out there in the field, and we'll see you next time on the Battle Vault podcast. Take care.
Take care.